Hello, writers. I am so excited today to bring you Roxy Sewell, one of my sister authors in Silence No More. And today we're going to dive into her author journey. I'm so excited. Roxy, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me.
I want to start with like your author journey a little bit because I know that Silence No More is not your first rodeo. So, can you just give us a little bit of background about your journey as a writer, your journey as an author?
Yeah, I have been writing my whole life. I kept journals as a little girl, and I really loved writing academic papers.
I bet you are like a standout. Like you're an outlier. That's the term I'm looking for.
Yes, and like essays for tests, anything that I could write, I was hungry to put pen to paper or to let my fingers flow. Then when I got into my late 20s, I went through a really bad depression, divorce. It's actually the story that I write about in my first published book, Cage No More. But during that experience, I started journaling religiously. And it wasn't like today, the day is beautiful. It was journaling really deep, profound, trying to make sense of my inner landscape. And that habit just kept going and going. And I started getting brave to share it publicly, my writing publicly. And that felt like the sense of liberation. And then Cage No More was my first published work. And now I just got published or about to be published again in Silence No More. And I'm working on a solo book. So it's just started just something just for me and then slowly morphing out as a gift of sacred expression. Yeah.
I bet so many people really resonate with what you're saying about journaling. And in fact, people who are watching, like, I'd love to hear from you. Does that experience ring true for you, where when you go through big, intense things in life, big changes, big transitions, big shedding and letting go and moving into new things, has writing been for you an outlet, like journaling? I bet that's true for a lot of people in this group. And then what I really would love to dig into, because this is kind of where the magic is. You were able to make that transition first from just writing it for yourself, journaling, to, you said, writing and sharing. Doreen, hey, hello. Yes, journaling is so powerful. You were able to first make that transition to just sharing with people. And were you sharing on social media, or where were you sharing when you started sharing some of your writing?
That's a really good question. So at first, I would bring my journal to my one-on-one healing sessions. I was working with a therapist, but I was also seeing my yoga teacher privately to do one-on-one ritual work. And I would just read to her straight from my journal without editing. And then I would read a couple entries to my mom or to my best friend. And I found that by reading something so personal and internal and sharing it with somebody else, that in itself was this medicine I didn't even know I needed. And then from there, I began to slowly share on social media. Social media has been, I feel like it's like my training wheels, because I've been able to move at my own pace. And like sometimes I write something and I'm like, I'm just going to release it. I'm not even going to check my social media until tomorrow. And if I get 0 likes, it doesn't matter. It's out in the ethers.
Yeah.
In the beginning, my social media page was private. So I was only sharing with people that I knew. And then I got the courage to make it public. And that was like this other initiation of like, it's just going to be out there.
Wow. I am in full body tingles and chills right now, because the way you created that safety for yourself is is so beautiful, and it sounds like it was really intuitive for you, but I'm not sure if that would be something people realize is an option. And this idea of like sharing first just in these really sacred containers with a coach, with a teacher or mentor, with a mom, like with somebody who loves you, or has like, agreed to be your witness. Like doing that is a beautiful gift to yourself, because it is then out in the world, you're speaking it aloud, and there's such a power to speaking aloud what you've written.
Yeah.
And then you could move it other places. So I just want to like put that out there to anybody who's listening and going, well, I journal a lot, but nobody sees my journal. Like maybe there's an opportunity there to share, not with the whole wide world at first, but in a sacred container. And Roxy, you're making me reflect on the fact I've been in a Sacred Sister mastermind for the last 3 years. And we do a lot of ritual, a lot of journeying and visualization, and we're invited to write, our own insights, and then we're always invited to share. And it didn't occur to me like how much that's helped me being free to share my writing in social media, and now doing this book, and like because people have witnessed me, and I got to feel in my body, oh, they listened, they heard it. Not only did they not shut me down, but they like cried tears of joy and celebration with me and said like, yes, that resonates, and yes, I feel it. So, what a beautiful way to just go one step at a time.
Yeah, I even want to say like it does, you could even start at a smaller step. I think I left out a couple steps. I at first would journal without my mind telling me what to say. So like true free writing. And then I would always sit and read it to myself, but I would read it out loud. And it doesn't seem like that was very powerful for me to hear my experience, especially because I was working through a lot of trauma, in my voice reflected back to me. Sometimes I would go outside and read it under a tree or to the moon, or I would go back into my journal and find.
Oh, let's see, we just got a slow connection for a second.
Oh, can you hear me?
There we go. But were you going to say read it outside under the moon? That would be my guess, knowing you, under the moon.
Yeah, I mean, just anywhere. But also I would find a journal entry that was really vulnerable, and then I would go back and respond to myself. So it's making those journals really conversational. I think that was a huge part of my writing experience.
So you were your first loving witness.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's amazing. So, and then, that makes sense that you would build up one step at a time, that courage to then, be published in the first book, Cage No More, and now in Silence No More. So tell us some about your chapter for this book. Give people a sense of why you really felt called to be in Silence No More. Why did that title speak to you? Why were you like, yes, I want to be a part of this cohort?
Yeah, the title in itself, so Silence No More, that resonates on so many levels. So my day job as a therapist, I work with non-speaking autistics who communicate by typing on a letterboard or pointing to letters on a letterboard or typing on a keyboard. So I truly feel like my soul came here to take the shackles off of silence and to show that the voice exists beyond just the voice. It's writing, it's dancing, it's painting. And so just that title itself, it was just, I had goosebumps. I messaged Annette and I was like, yes, like, absolutely.
Save my seat. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm very passionate about women's stories, or her story, as I call them. I'm working on a solo book as well. And I needed a little bit of momentum, almost like a little bit more of training wheels to get courage to continue in my solo book. And I love multi-author books because to me, they're healing circles in book form. Like you're gathering with other writers, and there's vulnerability, and there's community and sisterhood, and it's just incredible. Additionally, I've been walking through a journey of fertility or infertility for going on 3 years now. And in the start of my journey, I was really silent because that's what we get taught to do in these journeys. It's extremely taboo to talk about anything about the womb unless it's happy news.
Right. If it's a cupcake gender reveal, we're there for it. If it's a miscarriage, we're like, oh, awkward. We don't want to hear about that.
Yeah. Don't even say the word. Don't even say infertility. And even I found amongst women that talking about infertility, there was this like bizarre kind of no man's land of people being like, well, don't over-identify yourself with wanting to be a mother. You're a woman. And it's like, well, no, there's so many layers. And the more that I began to share about my journey, the more I realized how taboo it was. And every single time I would share, in the beginning, it was very cryptic. Like you had to know what I was going through to understand what I was writing on social media.
Okay.
When I started getting a little bit less cryptic, I started getting DMs from women telling me their stories. The more open, the more vulnerable these stories became. And then I realized that this is a topic that needs to be amplified. These voices need to be amplified. And I really respect women who don't want to share publicly because it's so personal. But I'm a person who's willing to stand and share that really private story and hold a lantern for everyone who's like, I just need you to say it so I can also have my story heard from yours. And so I don't know, I felt like it was an honor to be able to sit here and write the story for myself and so many other women.
Yeah.
And men.
Thank you for being a lantern holder. That's not my journey of like wanting to have children, and yet still like there are so many things just about being a woman and even talking about our cycles and things that I definitely have felt the taboo around. And then when you can break through, there's so much connection and there's support and there's help just for like, understanding why I feel the way I do at different times of the month or like my hormones. And I'm so grateful for those lantern carriers. And I'd love to hear more because I think this is a really relevant piece for a lot of people in this group who want to write something that is about the bigness, about the experience they've had. And there's a real trepidation there about going there. Like a lot of people say, well, I want to write it, but I don't want to go there.
Yeah.
So share with us your insight. What helped you to hold yourself in self-love and in grace as you wrote about things that are not only like very personal and challenging, but also like big taboos in our culture, and some people just don't want to hear about it. So how did you be with that?
That's a phenomenal question. It was hard actually, because part of me as a writer, because I write for myself, I have this habit of putting everything on paper. And so I allowed myself to have zero attachment. I think I wrote like 3 drafts for this chapter. And in the beginning, I made a little rule for myself. I was like, I'm only going to share what I've already shared on social media, but like with a different story, but that's the depth that it's going to go. I'm going to put these like random posts into one story and that'll be great. And it would have been great. Like that would have been fine. But my writing came out really broken, not in flow. And it just didn't feel, I didn't get that feeling like this is the story. So I actually closed my laptop for about a week, closed my journals for a week, and took a lot of baths and went on a lot of walks. And when I felt completely detached from the project, I sat, meditated, opened up my journal, and I was like, I'm just going to see what unfolds. And the title of my chapter, flip my words, came out. And it's Luna, and I was not planning on talking about her or that at all. And so I sat there looking at that title and I was like, I wonder what will come through. And things just flew out of me. And then even with that, I allowed myself to edit a lot and ask myself, like, what do I want to keep wholly as just mine? And what do I want to put on the altar for the community? So there's little things like her middle name. In my chapter, you'll see like my first time meeting her in my dream and she tells me her name. She actually told me her first and middle name, but I didn't put her middle name in the chapter because I was like, I really want to keep that for me. Yes. I originally had described what she physically looked like because it's very distinct. And then I was like, I'm going to also just keep that for me. So I would go in and like really sit with every single part and ask myself, out of this sacred story that's so precious to me, what parts do I still want just to be Roxy's?
That's so beautiful. And making that differentiation between what I keep because it really is personal and private versus what was I not talking about because I was allowing myself to be silent. And so we can kind of get into our heads around this and think, well, my options are either to be silent or to just like share it all. And then people go, well, I don't want to, I don't want to go there. I don't want to do to that extent. And there's no need to. And I love your process of firstly giving yourself that time and space to just walk away. And there's something so symbolically powerful, shutting the laptop, taking the bath, shutting the laptop, going on a walk.
Yeah.
Because you are going from that space of the analytical thinking mind, who's brilliant and so helpful in so many ways, to the space of the intuitive, connected creatrix, right? And welcoming in inspiration, listening deeply to your soul and to what it wants to say, and something completely different, it sounds like, came through. And then once you have it on paper, it's so much easier, I think, to decide, well, what parts are for the world and what parts are for me. And people are like, who's Luna? I want to meet Luna. Well, you'll get to when you read Roxy's chapter and hear the story there. But that's so beautiful that you went, I can share deeply, I can unsilence myself, and at the same time, I can keep some things just close to my heart that really are only for me. So, for everybody watching, just like feel how that feels in your body. If you go, I'm allowed to tell the parts of my story I feel called to share, and I'm allowed to hold close those that are just for me. Not about being shamed,
Yeah.
but just in the same way, like you might have inside jokes with your partner or your best friend, and you feel like those are just special to you, and you don't want to explain them to other people because that's just like wonderful. It's part of that love, yeah.
And by allowing myself to really check in with my boundaries and really seeing of like what's sacredly mine and what's sacred for like this community altar, what ended up happening was the story that, especially the second half, was not something that it wasn't even like not that it wasn't an option. I didn't even know that I had that story in me. And that was a wild experience. Like typing it out. So I was like, I'm not going to like even read what I'm writing. I'm just going to type. It's going to be messy. I'm going to have to edit, but I'm just going to see what comes. And I remember like pausing because I felt like I ran a marathon, and I just like looked back, and I went like, am I allowed to curse? Is that okay?
Oh, yeah.
And I was just like, holy shit. And I had to like really sit because I had everything really perfectly, lovingly outlined and planned out. And I think that the chapter, I hope that I convey like this journey of like really bringing you on this internal journey of infertility, of like what is going on beneath the surface. Because to me, that's something that's so important, is my friends who aren't going through this journey, they can see the events that are happening to me, and it's still so hard, as much as they love me, to wrap their brains around what's happening inside. The betrayal of the body, the shame, the way that you can be hopeful and mad and angry and loving, the way that you can like have this conviction that it's going to happen to you, but also you're like, am I making all of this up? Is she only going to exist in my dreams? And so I hope that was conveyed. I also was really passionate about, I want people to know that it's an unfinished story. And so many times we feel like we have to, if we're going to tell a story, we have to have the story finished, had 5 years in between. We're experts in this thing of ours, and and,
yeah.
And that's wonderful. That's how my first book, Cage No More, was. But this one, it's messy because I'm still in it, and so I don't have that crone vision of like, and these are all the lessons that I have. It's just like, here's me in the muck. Let me just tell you what it's like to be here. And I hope that there's something for you as well, like permission to tell your story.
And it's so beautiful. And I really think that's the future of storytelling and books, because for me as a reader and as a listener, that middle messy part, that's where I want to know the most.
Yeah.
And that's so often what people skip over. And, I completely get why. In our culture, we're really taught to be afraid of being vulnerable. And we're really taught to step forward, you know, as if we're in a job interview constantly going like, well, what are your strengths and how, you know, are you a completely put together person? And what actually helps us grow when we hear other people's stories is knowing, wait, in that moment when all the shit was hitting the fan, what were you doing to self-resource? What were you doing to resource with other people in your community? What choices were you making? What doubts were you having? And how did you sit with those doubts? Like, that's where the learning happens. And so for you to tell that story, and it's very different from just like, oh, here I'm jumping you know, an unfinished draft. This is a beautiful, polished, finished draft about a story that's ongoing. So you get the reflection and you get the like, here are the lessons I'm learning and here are the things that I'm doing and here's how I'm being with it. And we don't know how it ends, which is very true to life.
Yeah, and maybe 5 years I'll reflect on this and see it completely different. I think that's the big piece too. It's like giving ourselves permission to write something that is just right now. You know, it's just how we are right now.
That's courage. That is so much courage to write the thing that you fully know you might have written differently a few years down the road. But us here, like for us, the gift is we get to hear it now with the perspective that you have, because maybe 5 years down the road, things wouldn't feel as whatever, and we would miss like the juicy parts of your story because you would be in a place of like, oh, well, actually now things are different and my priorities have changed, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But we get the benefit of you still working on it and examining it now. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm curious, what are you most proud of about your chapter, about your process writing for this book?
I'm really, really proud of the way I personified grief, shame, and I mentioned like hope, like personified them as goddesses and like really having like this relationship with them. I described shame as like this demon of illusion. Grief was my grief mother. A hope. There's one part where I'm like, I screamed, hoping that the goddess of hope would hear my cries. And I feel like so many times, especially with emotion, especially with grief, we are taught that grief is horrible. And my chapter, I talk about it as holy, like this grief mother who, through my own grief, I was able to, like, that's where I found my healing. It was, so that piece I'm really proud of. I'm also really proud of the shame piece. You know, I mean, to write about shame, that is a journey, because there were so many times where I wanted to edit and I wanted to take things out to make me look like better. And I was like playing around with how to do this with looking messy and honest and letting, like, really honoring the first things that came to my mind. And I ended up going with like my initial reaction to writing things and not my polished. So I was like, you know, shame is messy and we've all done it. So I think that's the part that it's just, Cage No More, my first book, I felt like it was very polished, because
that chapter is beautiful in Cage No More. It's like it's like a poem. It's
yeah, and it was, but it's many years after. It's about my divorce and I'm kind of healing that. So I was able to really like airplane view and retrospectively talk about it. This one, I feel like I just keep hugging myself, like saying to myself, like, bless the mess. Like, I hope that it reads really poetic and beautiful, but I also hope that people get that it's messy because I'm still in the cocoon stage. Like,
feel the heat coming off of it. And that's, I mean, I feel like that's so perfect and in keeping with the theme of this book, because our intention, all of us as authors being part of this, right, is I'm going to break my silence so other women, other humans, I mean, this is like all women authors, and so there's that focus, but really so that all people feel inspired and free to break their silences as well. So when we can lead with our messiness and when we can lead with like, these are the things I'm still trying to figure out, and this is my balancing act, and I'm in motion, and I'm a real life person living life, like that I feel is so inviting for other people to go, oh, okay, yeah, wait, I'm also human. I'm also messy. I can step into the arena as well. Oh, so do you have any advice for somebody who is considering writing their story? Is there a perspective that you find empowering for somebody who's like, I've got the journals, I'm thinking I want to share, but
Yeah, I say write the story that you yourself are hungry to have received. So that's what encouraged me to write Cage No More and this one. Both of these experiences where I really wish that I had a story that I could read of someone describing my exact experience. And Cage No More, I wanted to read a story of someone describing divorce as a death. I couldn't find any. So I was like, I'm going to write it. For this one, there's so much, there's a lot in this one of just speaking about infertility, speaking about wishes, but also like in witchcraft, they say you're not supposed to speak your magic or your spells out loud. My whole chapter is a spell. It's a spoken spell. And so I think that part is like, sometimes it does help to speak it out loud. Sometimes it helps to scream it out into the void and have it heard. And so my advice would be, what do you wish you could fall on your knees and have heard, and then go from there?
oh, that's some fucking good writing advice, everybody. Please take it. There's somebody on here whose name isn't showing up, but hi, we adore you too. Thank you so much for watching. So, Silence No More, Empowering the Next Generation of Women is dropping a week from today, September 9th, and you can get the link to be the first to download. All the proceeds from this book are actually going to a really amazing organization called Cast LA that is helping to free people from human trafficking. So, we're looking to make the difference in you when you read these chapters, and feel free to break your own silence, and then also, physically in the world to help people who are literally being silenced. We can help be a voice for them and advocate for them. So I really hope you'll get a copy. Roxy, how can people follow you? I know your like tagline is healing with words, and I want people to be able to experience that healing. So where can they hear more from you?
Instagram is where I'm most active. I share a lot on Instagram. I'm working on also doing healing circles where I infuse a lot of my word magic, and I'll be sharing those virtually. I'm working on a solo book. So all that I share through Instagram, and you can follow my journey. I write a lot of my own life journey and hope that it's a mirror. So just know that my Instagram, it's just reading. It's sometimes you'll get fun pictures of cats, because I'm still also human.
And travel. You've got some awesome travel
and music. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, I will drop a link to that in below this video, so you can check out Roxy. And I just want to thank you so much, Roxy, for being here, being in your energy, hearing your words is just a healing experience on its own. And I know when people read your chapter, they're going to feel that even more. So thank you.
Thank you. I love you, Magic Woman.
I love you. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We love you. Take care. Bye.
Bye.